Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next Inside Pod. All these young conversations, and I call them young conversations because, content has become a big thing since, COVID-19. But I want to encourage those of you who haven't really looked at, content and all this kind of stuff also as a priority, because it's also a way to get yourself into a world that you perhaps haven't even seen physically. Speaking of content, I would like to bring to the stage a young lady whose essence is not content in itself, but what the content does to the people it meets. I like to call her a multifaceted, multimedia maven. Young, bright, beautiful, and ready for the world beyond the continent of Africa. And she is so simple, so easy, that her name is simply just Ivy. Woo, 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 woo. Just Ivy, just Ivy, just Ivy, just Ivy. Mwah. And you are going to be doing something exceptional at the grand finale tomorrow. I love you, sweetheart. You are exceptional. All right, so Just Ivy is here to have a conversation with a young man whom I saw last year. I mean, when you look at him, he's so small. You don't think much of him. But when he starts to speak, he's a giant of a hero. Tesh, why are you lounging? Respect your big sister and sit properly. Ladies and gentlemen, please bring to the stage the big man himself, Chief Executive Officer, Market Force, and the 2022 ABA Second Prize winner, Tesh Mbabu. Just Ivy will now have a conversation as well with a 2019 Top 10 hero. And he's the Chief Executive Officer of Anchor. Please bring to the stage Mulai Tabure. My brother, you are welcome. Go ahead. Just Ivy, over to you.
Is my mic on? Good. Thank you, Anita. Guys, before I start, a round of applause for Anita. Isn't she so good at her job? I am amazed. Thank you. How is everybody doing? Are we excited to learn? Here, I'm here to get African men, to talk about their problems. These men don't talk about their problems, and then they leave us on earth. Other wives appear. We have other children. So today I want you guys to be vulnerable and talk about your problems. And let's do it in a simple way, because bombast is beautiful. Lots of difficult words, lots of numbers. You've raised $13.2 million to date. You've raised $43.2 million to date. But I want to move beyond those numbers. And let's talk about your challenges in building resilient businesses in Africa. Mulai, what is a resilient business to you?
For me, a resilient business is something that sustains the test of time and the test of stress, all kind of stress. We are facing economic stress, financial stress. But I think the most important one is the stress when you're a startup of actually matching the market. People don't realize how quick the market moves. And if you only think about what you hear about in the news and forget about your customers, you're probably dead. So that's the main point about what we do. And our customers sometimes don't even know what they want and how much they change. So you become at the same time someone selling them, knowing them, and caring for them. So that's the resilience part that people tend to forget.
Surviving stress. How about you, Tesh? What is building a resilient business? And while you take us through that, I want to know the steps that you've taken to do so.
Yeah, thanks, Ivy. I'm excited to be here. So for me, resilience is about being able to bounce back from setbacks, challenges, from failures. I think this applies to personal life as it applies to business. And, business is not a straight line. So you could start doing one thing. I think most of the founders could relate to this, that you see an opportunity, you have an idea, you go to the market and realize that, that's not it. So I think resilience is about being able to adapt to market changes, adapt to situations. It could be internal, co-founder conflict. It could be whatever challenges you face, just being able to get through them and fulfill the mission as a result.
You said business is not linear. Is the process of building this business that is adaptable linear? Can you give me step-by-step process so that anybody who's watching this today as an entrepreneur has a blueprint of this is what I need to do to get my business to be resilient?
Yeah, I think, so first of all, it's a mindset. as an entrepreneur. When you go into it, you need to realize that it's not going to end up the way you thought. You could think like, I'm moving from point A to B, so the destination is super important. Point B is important, but you could think maybe I'm going to fly from Cape Town to Cairo directly, but you could end up going to Nairobi and then Lagos and then Morocco, and then you end up in Cairo. So I think that's the journey of building. So I think the core competence there for both the founder and just how you build the structures of the business is adaptability. So just being aware that you need to be adaptable and building structures and ways to observe and make quick changes when necessary so that you're able to get to the destination.
It could also be then a personality thing. If you're very rigid, risk averse, you might struggle. Am I correct, Mulai?
Yes, I think when you mention a kind of, if I were to give a formula for resilience for anyone listening, and I generally think about three things. It's a product of three things, and it's a product, it's not an addition. So if either of the things come to zero, you're dead, and you're not resilient. The first thing for me is humility a lot. You need to humble yourself.
Humble yourself.
And you keep doing it every day, listening to the market and your customers and your team. So that's the first thing. The second thing that happens a lot to be resilient, and you need to be decisive. The quickness by which you take the hard decision is going to define whether or not you sustain. And as an entrepreneur, a lot of the times you know the hard decisions. It's just that you always have a million things to do, and sometimes you spend a lot of time on the easy one, and you avoid the very hard ones. And that's probably where you're not resilient, because ultimately you die until you fix the hard things. And to conclude, the last thing, but I think the content creators that speak before will concur to that, is once you're decisive and you're humble, the last thing that people tend to not do, like Tesh mentioned, is not being consistent. You cannot just be intense. A lot of entrepreneurs confuse intensity for the key to success, when in reality it's consistency, because resilience doesn't happen in one day or 1 month or even a year. I've been at it for 10 years now, and I can tell you it's still humbling, and I still struggle to make the decision that I have to do fast enough.
Thank you. Congratulations to you for being here for 10 years. Lots of businesses don't make it there. Lots of businesses don't make it past year 3. Lots of businesses don't make it past year 5. ABH at 5, we're looking at you. Congratulations on 5 years. Let's see how you do after this. Let's talk about unforeseen challenges. The things that I can't Google. The things that we don't mention. Completely shocked you. Give me one.
Oh, there is a lot. I'm trying to think the less violent for you guys. The idea is not to. I know it ranges from one of your favorite employees stealing from you.
Oh dear.
To
you have favorites?
Someone that was the most prominent. A young lady that I really counted on to grow in the company, because she was both very talented and extremely hardworking, until you realize that she's been stealing from you for 6 months.
Oh.
So, that's the kind of thing that makes very hard afterward business to continue for you, because people think that entrepreneurs are just about numbers, but actually we're about people.
Yeah.
And when you lose people, and when you lose the trust of the people you have, that's very hard. And another thing that for me that was unforeseen is generally when you realize also that the speed with which the company grows, your own growth doesn't match it yet on some aspects. For example, my job now is completely different than the one I had 2 years ago. And if you don't train for that, it's a very hard awakening, because it's something that people tell you about it. If you read about it, you hear about, oh, you need to change, etc., etc. But I guarantee you, when it hits you in the face, it's never something you've been seeing coming from afar.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's normal.
And thank you for being vulnerable. And I'm guessing
pleasure.
to deal with pilferage from employees, processes, systems in place that you really, really had to
No, you have. That's how you caught them, and then you put her in jail, But it's not because you fix the problem that it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
That's what I really want to make people understand, is you cannot expect this to be pain-free. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Embrace that pain.
I don't know if you
Embrace
agree,
that pain.
man.
Tesh is in a bit of pain right now, according to sensational headlines. And I'm sure that was something unforeseen. You are surviving Kenyans on Twitter. I'm very proud of you, because that's a brutal war space. Yeah. What's going on, Tesh? What's going on?
Yeah, I think, similar to what Liz is talking about. There's, when we started out in 2018, no one would have predicted COVID, for example.
Of course.
So we started the business, we started Market Force as a software company. We're dealing with enterprise customers, So I was doing a lot of the selling, and then COVID-19 hit, and we lost like 80% of our business, our revenue. We had a lot of employees then, and we had to figure out, okay, we had to like really talk to the employees, reduce their pay, figure out how to just survive that period. And out of that period of COVID, Market Force 2.0 was born. So we launched an e-commerce marketplace called Reja Reja, and that ended up scaling quite aggressively. But I think what the main point is, when you face the toughest times as a business is when I believe the true entrepreneur, the true self comes out. You just realize that, you're more resilient than you actually think you are. I thought that one of the solutions to our problem was capital.
Yeah.
So I always said, if we just raise $500,000 or $1 million, like we're going to fly.
Numbers, yeah.
We raise like millions and millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, if your fundamentals in your business, the unit economics are not right, like no amount of money that you get into the business will save your business. So that's been the most brutal lesson for me over the last 3 years.
Get your fundamentals right.
Get your fundamentals right. And whatever you think is going to be the thing that leads to the success of your business actually might not be. For us, COVID, for example, or the amount of money raised, were things that were unexpected, but they really changed us as a business and enabled us to grow.
I like that. Let's stick to raising funding, because that's what we hear a lot of. a lot. But nobody publishes profits. Do you guys think that's a challenge, especially in Africa, whereby all we post is, oh my God, they've raised millions of dollars, but we don't understand the intricacies of the business? Are you making profit, or you're just raising funding? What's going on?
That's true. I know a few startups that do profits, but I guarantee you, if you send a message to a media saying, "Oh, I made a profit for this year,"
Nobody cares.
You're probably not going to get a lot of attention. But it's pretty much the same thing as, I think, Ivy, you're an expert in financial literacy, and I think it's the same thing as saving money. Like, no one is going to congratulate you because you save money. You just do it for when it's going to be hard, and you just do it because you know it's important. Yeah. But you don't get a boy, you saved a lot of money. Nobody cares. But when you spend, you can get a lot of attention. And it's the same kind of thing. Basically, when you look at, I always tell, because what you're mentioning here and what we're doing today is the same thing why we try as entrepreneurs to do more of these things and try to put more content. That's why I started the podcast, because generally people only talk to us when we raise funds. So we only speak when we talk to. The rest of the time we're working. And to some extent, I think it's our responsibility, and the ABH managed to create a community when we could do that. It's also to speak without being asked about the things that nobody asks us about. And money is one thing, because like I like to tell my team, and I always tell in the podcast people, that money is not a stock. Like, we tend to think that you need to get a lot of it to be okay or to be resilient, but actually it's a flux. It's how much you're able to create, and the same thing is true for your company. No matter how much money it's given at one point, it will die if it's not able to sustain itself and create enough of what it's spending.
Value creation, wealth creation. Tesh, I could sense that you are agreeing.
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Yeah. Anything to say to that?
Yeah, I think it's actually a borrowed perspective from someone I admire, Paul Graham, and he talks about being a business being default alive or default dead. Yeah. And basically it just means that even if you have $1 million in the bank today, and you have expenses as a business, are you going to, by the time you're generating enough revenue to sustain your monthly expenses, will you be able to, will you be able to get to profitability before that $1 million runs out? And that's, I think, when you think about fundraising, it just buys you time. It buys you time. So by the time you're finishing that money, are you profitable? Yeah. So that's my views on that.
I love it. Such a serious, heavy conversation. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys are learning, because I am. I'm nodding my head incredibly. I want to get to, let's just be a little bit positive, because you could not have gotten to where you are without doing something right. If you were to go back and start again, what would you repeat? What great decision did you make for your business that you would say, you know what, I'm going to do that over and over, and I'm going to spread that story so that other startups can learn from it?
The thing is, the best decision we took were sometimes the most painful. So if you want something joyful, I'm trying to think. But I'm trying really, but every time I think about something we did right, like you said, in COVID, for example, same thing. We were a marketplace only at the time.
Yeah.
And when everybody locked down, we lost 80% of the revenue, same thing.
Yeah, shipping.
Yeah,
COVID
and
was
we moved
disaster.
to shipping,
Yeah.
exactly. And we added more services. So generally speaking, the good lesson for us is always follow your customers. Like sometimes they will bring you into places you're not comfortable, you're not equipped to, but you need to find a way to use your talents to serve them better than anyone else. And if you cannot find it, you need to work around finding the right customers for what you're great at. You cannot just... Generally what happened for us was always following them. The best decision we ever took when we decided to stop doing what we knew how to do, to start doing what we knew they needed. At any step and format, may it be at the very beginning to even like a few weeks ago. So that's always the thing that works for us, generally.
Follow your customer.
Yeah.
Follow your customer. Tesh?
Yeah, I think for us, we've always been very ambitious as a business. We took a very bold step in 2021. We expanded to Nigeria from Kenya. And that was an amazing experience. We learned a lot. I think what I'd repeat again and again is just one, retaining that ambition, because at the end of the day, like, Africa needs innovators. It needs us to think about things and not just think about them, but do them. So just get out of your bed every day and do it. I remember when we launched Reja post-COVID, everyone was staying in their house, wearing masks. Everyone was afraid of contact. Us guys went out and started collecting orders from merchants and delivering using our own car as the founders. And that built what MarketForce is today. So that's the way to turn ideas into realities. Just wake up and do it and be consistent.
Consistent, yeah.
Consistency. And just to close, because we keep discussing Africa, how do African businesses take up space in the global market?
I always tell people it's pretty easy. Ultimately, it's what you set out to build. If you set out to serve the world, you will serve the world. Like Tesh said, ambition is one thing. We're lucky enough we have proven that you have businesses in Africa that can sell over $50 million in 175 countries. So that exists. It's not a question of it's possible or not. It's just a matter of making sure that the data is there, that people know how to do it. That's why we share the white paper report with all our data to let people know it's not that hard. It's going to be very complicated for you if you don't think about the world as your customer. But I think social media and all of the things that we have currently allows people to project themselves globally. And what we just need now is the same level of exigence as we see everywhere else. If you say you want to do something great, don't half-ass it. Don't try to do something that is okay. And that's it. If you ever have the ambition that Tesh talked about, and like I mentioned, humility, consistency, and you're decisive in how quickly you move, I'm pretty sure the world is your oyster. You just need to get there.
Mindset, as Tesh had said in the beginning. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I think Africans don't realize the unique position we're in. Reason being talent, like so many young people who are craving for opportunities. So if you build an environment, a company where these people can come in and thrive, it's massive opportunity. The other thing is the population as well. There's a lot of growth. I think it's fastest growth in the world today.
We're pretty young.
By 2050, a quarter of the world will be in Africa, which is crazy. That means that resilient companies will be able to take advantage of that population and really thrive in the future. And I believe that's what we're building. We're building companies not for today, it's for the next 20, 30 years. I think I spent time at Alibaba in 2019. And one of the things I really admired was the fact that they were looking to build a company that survives 100 years. I think that's a real definition of business resilience, just that mindset.
Guys, my time is up. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Here is to building businesses that survive the next 100 years. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Just Ivy, Mulaye, and